What's up, guys? Nolan here. We got a lot of movement with Escape from Tarkov today and lots to talk about, most exciting of which being the event that started this morning. There is a task with therapists to turn in key cards for rep, 5 friendly flares and stims. For those who don't know, those flares in particular make all AI friendly to you until you hurt one or you leave the map. Very useful for getting specific boss kills or going to certain locations on the map if the AI are stopping you from doing that. Unless you are labs Chad and have extras of these cards ready to go, there's conveniently a mechanic barter for each in return for several tank batteries. Where do you get all those tank batteries? Well, they now have 3 100% spawn chances around customs, but so do raiders as well. So the raiders are going to be all over customs 100% of the time while this is going on. You also get a special achievement for completing this quest if you're interested in something like that. So yeah, customs will be the map to play for the next week or so, or until this event ends, which we don't know exactly. They didn't tell us when it's going to end, but safe to say we'll have at least a week here, so good luck. Or just have fun on the kind of new customs, at least the new more popular customs, as people are going to be wanting to do this and be farming raiders, as well as get those tank batteries out so that they can get those labs cards. Speaking of customs, some of you may know it is linked to factory, while factory is due to be changed significantly in some way. Nikita mentioned this in the last Tarkov TV. Well, he just shared some pictures of this potential new factory, and a keen-eyed map maker by the name of Rework, who makes all of those crazy well-detailed 3D maps for Tarkov, recognized some things outside the window. He is convinced this is the warehouse building we've been walking around for the last 8 years, and I completely agree with him. I think BSG are planting factory right here and are planning to make it playable space. Some of you may remember there was some reason to way back in the day to recognize this as the factory building. I know I've talked about it before as it possibly being the factory building, or maybe there was some reference to this being the factory building. Either way, it for sure now works out to be the factory building if they end up having this be the factory building, which it looks like it's going to be. So from now on, just going to assume this is going to be it, because this is without a doubt factory when we look at these pictures. It's the exact same layout with some minor but important changes that we can see up top. The catwalk is no longer closed off in the middle between the 2 main rooms and overlooking boilers as well. So someone up there has shots all around the factory. On the other end, it seems you'd also have shots out to Fortress and down to old construction, as well as maybe even dorms if this ends up being the building, which we're pretty sure, we're kind of certain that it is. I imagine the offices and the bathroom windows will have some sightlines as well, but we don't see those here. Gonna have to wait and see what they do on the underground portions as well as the other spots that we can't see, because something to pay attention to here is it actually doesn't really fit when it goes to construction inside of factory itself. There's not a whole lot of room to work over in that corner, so unless they end up adding it to customs itself or removing it somehow, there's definitely going to be some changes here. The footprint is not perfect, but when you look at it, this is absolutely the layout to factory. Sure, there could have been some cookie cutter with factories for, well, Soviet factories, and they could have had similar factories in the same area, but the lockers are in the same place, the rubble is in the same place, the barrels are in the same place. It just is too similar. That is old factory, at least for these rooms that we're looking at. But what I'm confused about is Nikita's wording during the Tarkov TV. Nikita said that they will completely redo factory, and maybe there will be an event where they bring back old factory for a limited time. So I'm speculating that this is not the new factory Nikita had in mind. My theory is that this factory, which is clearly old factory, is just a meaningful way of getting that area of customs to be playable, while new factory may still be planted somewhere else. And I think this version of factory works too well here, between the factory key working on customs at that shortcut a stone's throw away, or the fact that the footprint of the building just works too well. I think BSG planned to have factory here at some point, and potentially for a long time now. We just didn't figure it out, or maybe we did and I'm misremembering, because I do seem to remember us thinking that this would be factory at some point. I'm just forgetting exactly when that happened. So again, if you guys remember exactly what that was, or you even remember what video I talked about with it, just go ahead and let me know in the comments. Now, if they move factory to a different location, they can make the layout whatever they want and have it make sense to be somewhere else entirely, potentially even closer to woods like we've always assumed it to be, and it very likely will be. Now, that is a lot of work. It's a little far-fetched, and it's completely possible that BSG just intend this to be the only move that they make, with old factory just being here and be done with it. I just think based on the way way that Nikita spoke about it, there's a whole other location being discussed, and this won't be the end of it. On top of that, we got these shots from Nikita last week. Now, if you remember on the Patreon, then you would have already seen me talk about this, put up a private video to the Patreon earlier where we discussed this, a couple of perks of being over there. So I'll catch you guys up that haven't seen this yet. I do not think that this is associated with factory in terms of this new stuff that we saw from Nikita last week. I think that this is a woods expansion personally, but when it ends up being in the game, it can definitely help connect woods to factory and then factory to customs by way of the BTR. I think this area is here in the bottom right of woods, and I think there will be a path for the BTR from old sawmill into the new factory, or well, into this new area that we're looking at here, and then into the new factory, which if I'm right, we haven't seen any pictures of yet, and then into customs as the pathing seems to work that way. Old factory didn't have a good place for the BTR to enter, and it was just bad PvP map design in the first place. Too many bad corners and choke points, so I think this now paints a picture where BSG improved the layout for factory in a PvP sense and add a spot or maybe two for the BTR to actually stop so that it can have a way to connect to customs in the rest of the world, and that way they can get map to map working seamlessly. The route can go from old sawmill on woods to this new area shown here to the new factory area, then into customs through RUAF and down and out through dorms, so it's closer to reserve, where it goes through the Scav PMC exit, through the map, and out at checkpoint into lighthouse through the adequately named military base exit, all the way down to tunnel or off-road to path to shoreline, where it eventually gets to terminal or someplace close to it, and then can go right back up to road to customs and start a new loop. It works great, so we'll see if it ends up happening that way or not. We'll see. However, last note that I'll put on this, when it comes to the new area that Nikita ended up showing last week, that train bridge looks awfully similar to the one off of shoreline near terminal. So this new area that I'm thinking is the bottom right of woods could also be a middle point between shoreline to customs as well. We'll have to wait and see. We've got a lot happening this year, so thanks to everybody over on Patreon for helping me get to TwitchCon this year. For anybody that doesn't know, BSG are going to be there. There's going to be some stuff happening with Escape from Tarkov. Current goal is to have $800. That will handle my flights and my stay, or at least a big chunk of it. Haven't hit that goal yet, but maybe we'll get there by September. If you're interested in helping out, link in the description. Thanks again to those who have already. To support in other ways, you can click all the buttons on the screen or come by a stream. Check out my other channels for other games right here, like Star Citizen and Broken Arrow. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a nice day. See you guys.